Space Black, Neptune Blue, and Moonlight White are the three eye-catching colors of the Redmi Note 8. The unit we have here with us is in the Moonlight White colorway, and it's absolute eye candy with its soft gradient hue. It comes protected with Corning Gorilla Glass 5, both up front and the rear, allowing the device to feel quite premium in the hands. It is quite slippery though, so for those of you who have butterfingers, Xiaomi has included a clear case in the box. Overall, with its glass construction, the Note 8 feels sturdy and robust when held. At the back, the Redmi Note 8 is equipped with a quad camera setup arranged vertically, with the camera module protruding quite a bit from the smartphone's body. So we do get some wobble here when the device is nude and laid flat. Also found here is a classic rear-mounted fingerprint scanner, more on that later. In front, slim bezels surround the 6.3-inch display, though they aren't the slimmest, and there's a dot drop notch on top that houses the front camera. An LED notification light is also located right next to the selfie shooter on its left. Slightly wider than the rest is the chin, where one can find the Redmi logo across it, which we aren't particularly fans of. On the right sits the power button and the volume rocker. The placement is rather easy to reach and they're quite clicky as well. The dual SIM tray slot and dedicated micro SD card slot are situated on the left. Up top, we can find the noise cancelling mic for speakerphone, as well as an IR blaster that does work well with the included Mi Remote app. And situated at the bottom is a single downward firing speaker, a USB Type-C port, a noise cancelling mic for regular calls, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. For display, the Note 8 sports a 6.3-inch Full HD Plus IPS LCD panel with a resolution of 2340 by 1080. While the colors aren't as striking and punchy as we hoped they would be, the panel does offer crisp detail and sharpness. At 50% brightness, it's also pretty usable under direct sunlight. It might not be enough for others, however. As for the audio, the single downward firing speaker can get loud, but we don't recommend you guys setting it to maximum as there is some sort of distortion at peak volume. Lows are non-existent, mids are present, and highs sound tinny and unpleasant to the ears. We do still advise you guys to take advantage of the 3.5mm audio jack and use earphones or headphones instead for a more immersive experience. For software, we get Android 9 Pie skinned with Xiaomi's MIUI 11 on top. All the apps and icons are arranged on the home screen with no options to change it to a drawer style, which has been the case ever since for MIUI. If you aren't into that, users can always remedy this with third-party launchers like Nova Launcher. Users should also be glad to know that we get a system-wide dark mode, which does look pretty good in our opinion. Our unit here has 64 gigs of internal storage, with about 49 gigs of it being usable. For performance, the Redmi Note 8 sports a Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 chipset paired with an Adreno 610 GPU. The Note 8 has two RAM variants, that's 3 and 4 gigs, with our unit here having the latter. We ran it through our usual benchmarks, and for those of you interested, having them flash on screen now. Basic tasks such as social media browsing, navigation, video streaming, and the like aren't much of an issue for the Note 8. Sometimes though, switching between apps too fast can cause the phone to freeze a bit. When it does lag, it also takes a couple of seconds before the device recovers from it. For gaming, we tested out Mobile Legends. Frame drops and lags were noticeable and persistent, so we weren't really fans of that. For biometric security, the Redmi Note 8 gets finger and face unlock. Like I mentioned earlier, for the fingerprint sensor, we get a rear-mounted one, and it's pretty fast, but it isn't the fastest, sadly. I've had faster scanners, even in-display optical ones, that are faster than this rear-mounted one, and that is surprising because this is a conventional rear-mounted one. Same goes for the face unlock. It takes about half a second, which again isn't bad at all. For battery, a 4000 mAh cell gives life to the Note 8. We subjected it to our standard video loop test, and the Note 8 yielded us a pretty good 13 hours and 42 minutes of playback. The Note 8 comes with 18-watt fast charging support, and it took us around 2 hours to fully charge the device. Moving to cameras now, stationed on the rear of the Note 8 is a quad camera setup consisting of a 48-megapixel primary sensor, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide, a 2-megapixel macro, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. Residing in the dot drop notch up front is a 13-megapixel selfie shooter. For selfies, the Note 8 captures shots that look natural under ample lighting, the skin tones are vibrant and flattering, and sufficient detail is also present. The subject background separation is pretty good as well when it comes to portrait mode. The edges aren't too harsh, and it does a great job of focusing on the subject. As for the rear cameras, the Note 8 produces good photos that have adequate exposure and sharp detail. Colors produced are not quite true to life because of the boosted saturation, but it's not an issue, and it's not the oversaturation that comes from a Realme device or an Oppo device colors when the chroma boost is turned on. Without a doubt, the images are satisfying enough to be shared on social media, even without editing. When it comes to ultra-wide shots, the Note 8 offers an option to correct the distortion, resulting in photos that lessen the fisheye effect. The colors do appear to be darker, and details look over-sharpened compared to the primary lens. For the macro sensor, it's pretty good. We here in the office can definitely appreciate this gimmicky sensor. With ample lighting and a little creative intuition, users should be able to have fun with this lens. For night mode, first up we have a reference shot taken on the default photo mode. As you can see, a lot of the highlights are very much overexposed, but noise reduction did kick in here. And overall, we do get a somewhat blurry image. Like, it is supposed to have the whole landscape in focus, or it is supposed to have the whole skyway in focus in some way, but it isn't. And actually, it didn't do a bad job with the default photo mode at all. Moving on to the night mode shot, as you can see, there is obviously a lot more noise and grain now compared to the reference shot, and it's really weird. I mean, night mode's supposed to correct all this noise and grain from the shot, but it's still present here. It did make the overall image brighter though, and a lot of the highlights are no longer overexposed, which is a good thing. But again, that noise and grain in the sky will leave you guys quite disappointed with this device's night mode. Overall, the standard Redmi Note 8 is quite an impressive device. It has a pretty good feel to it. You get pretty modest image quality from this quad camera setup on the rear. You also get pretty modest battery life as well as a pretty good display. Despite those aspects, one can't ignore the occasional stutters during navigation and the poor gaming performance in graphics heavy titles. The Redmi Note 8 has 3 configurations. We get a 3 plus 32 gig variant priced at 7,990 pesos, a 4 plus 64 at 8,990 pesos, and lastly a 4 plus 128 at 9,990 pesos. There are several devices in the same price range as the Redmi Note 8, despite the few cons we've had with it, albeit it's an LCD, but still good. We still do think that this phone is worth your budget, especially if you're opting for the 4 gigs of RAM plus 64 gigs of internal storage variant. Though if you are aiming for the highest spec variant, we do recommend you guys stretching your budget a little bit more so you can just get the Redmi Note 8 Pro. So, what did you guys think of the standard Redmi Note 8? Let us know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon so you get notified of future uploads. Be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see ya in the next one.